This is going to be QosmicVoid's second theory analysis video of Hunter the Parenting. I know just enough about Hunter the Parenting to say that, one, I've seen every episode, multiple of the audio takes, some of the audio dramas, some of the episodes that are freaking individual episodes, but they only call audio logs because they don't put nearly as ungodly amounts of animation into it as they did in some of the other episodes. And frankly, I'm obsessed with this. So yeah, unlike most things I do on YouTube, I actually have an idea where I'm coming from on this one, even if I don't know everything about the Hunter the Parenting aspect for the Hunter part as opposed to the parenting, which I know Alpha Boost is working. It's so freaking good. Basically what I'm saying is I will be arguing with QosmicVoid, the creator of this series, in the chat while I do this live, is what I would say, except the last time around I kind of agreed with a lot of what he said because it made sense. So I'm going to pretend to disagree with him a lot more than last time. I mean, I'd completely, really disagree with him. Yeah. Either way, let's get started. Also, Gilgamesh, you are currently being manipulated into Limbus. I cannot deny you are correct about that, sir. Let's get started.
I really hope she isn't a traitor. I feel so bad for her.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I mention that I was going to start at QosmicVoid saying something a little sus? No? Well, that's completely unrelated.
Give her a boyfriend, a girlfriend, an envy partner, a pet dog. Just give her some love, please. I feel like I should specify that the pet dog is not meant to be a romantic, which is a thing I'd have to do now. I do hate the internet sometimes.
I just don't understand why they would use two different squiggly eye designs for Grimmel. And the second one can't be Delirium, because
the second one looks like they just did a bad job copying it over, honestly.
If it is, you know who else would be under the effects of the Delirium? Matilda herself. Then why have this?
No, I don't think that's Delirium. I think that's just the, oh god, what the fuck image of distorting the eyes to make it look like it's more painful. Personal opinion. Gilgamesh, you should play Limbus. This is a threat. I will find you. My god. Oh shit, dude, you actually managed to, oh, well, we actually might make this goal. Damn.
This one when Grimmel is attacking. I'm looking in my guess. I think the swirl pattern is either a mistake, they didn't expect someone to be idiotic enough to zoom in like that, and it's supposed to just be an action line, or it's something that's going to be explained as something else. I do not think it's Delirium. That's my guess.
The exact specifics are now what are up for debate. Was she under mind control while also being a ghoul? How did Matilda do anything while Grimmel was there? If Grimmel was under mind control, why was this removed from her memory? Did Grimmel just leave once Matilda showed up? Why didn't she mention that then? Or is Grimmel just very good at lying? At that point, we're talking about motivation, and I can't assess that because while I'm psychic, I'm not telepathic. I don't know what's going on in that head of hers, and nothing she's said in any of her appearances could be enough to get a concrete motivation out of. I could guess that she wants to get information on the Quagian based on her dialogue in the audio log in the pub, but that really is nothing more than a guess. There's enough to speculate on, but not enough to really make a theory out of.
I don't remember nearly enough about that conversation about the Quagian in the pub. I focused more on the chair that seemed to work awesome, but no, I don't remember anything about the Quagian. That's completely slipping my mind right now. Also, apparently, there's talk in chat right now about how there are new delirium rules in the new editions that apply to ghouls. Oh. And if that's the case, being ghouled and having delirium might not be mutually exclusive, which admittedly is, knowing that, something I would heavily believe Brew Alpha Boost and every one of his damn writers would gleefully extort us with. And I do mean extort, not exploit.
And there is also evidence that would suggest that Grimmel isn't the ghoul, to be clear. For example, the fact that she was in the security room and the footage was tampered with, but there was still footage of her on it.
Yep. And she's also really upset right there after the fight. And according to just chat right now, yeah, Cosmic didn't even know about the ghouls being deliriumed in the new version of the game. Ah. So that's not just new information to me, it was new information to him as well. I mean, this is one of the reasons I like these kind of videos, because I can learn more about the lore as I do it. And also because in the Discord, the giant chat boxes of massive amounts of lore info dumping that goes over my head so entirely, because I look at that and go, oh god, someone wrote a novel and it's awesome, but at the same time, I don't have the context to understand the context of what they're contextualizing. Yeah. Ooh. Hey, Dunn, thank you for joining the membership. Thanks, man.
That seems like quite the oversight on her end, if it was her, and that was her also messing with the security footage. I feel like we're missing.
Also, Gilgamesh, one, thank you, but seriously, man, don't donate more than is financially responsible for yourself. It's fine, man. Don't do that. But damn you for your fanatical love of Limbus and your desire to make it missionary. Oh my god. Would you believe you're not the first person to say that exact phrase about Limbus Company? It hasn't happened more than twice. But it has, and it's kind of freaky.
Something. One piece of crucial information that would let us blow this case wide open.
Oh?
But we don't have it yet.
Well, that's
Or
what I
at the
said.
very least, I haven't been able to spot it yet. There is also Elise. She came out of this looking mighty damn suspect as well.
Really?
From her giving Grimmel a hairband to hide her burn, to stealing the keys to let Grimmel get in the security room in the first place.
Honestly, I thought that was done for humor at the time. I completely forgot she did it, though.
She's either involved directly, or she has one hell of a bad case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time and doing the wrong thing at that time, because she...
Now, I'm just wondering if that pin is actually important for any reason. Maybe that's a giveaway, because I don't know nearly enough about it. If there's something in universe that means, or maybe it's just a hunter symbol for all I know. I just look at that and think, oh, hey, Code Geass, which is obviously not the reference they're making, but it's where my mind goes, so I'm never going to come to the correct answer. Oh, and done. You also upgrade to the goatee of moderate evil membership level? Thank you, man.
She's looking mighty sus right about now.
Actually, bear with me a second.
Theory 2, in the middle of in the middle of 1, because I've given up making things make sense, Elise is a changeling. I know just enough about changeling and fairy in general that I'm okay with not knowing more. Apparently in the old lore, it was about dreams, and the new lore, it's about being fucked up. The pin is the Arcanum's logo?
I've seen
That
some
makes
people
sense.
speculate that she might be a changeling, specifically a slough.
Whoa.
I suppose I should explain changelings a bit, but I'm not going to go super in depth with them. To put it simply, they're humans that have fairy souls in them, due to the Fae being cut off from their home dimension and needing hosts to survive. They appear to be human to any other human, but other changelings can see them as any number of supernatural creatures, including Slender Man. Nope, that's not a joke, that's literally written in the books, that's a...
They actually canonized Slenderman, which is weird because I thought that actually was someone's personal property because it was created in response to a story prompt. I guess it's been in enough games they can kind of get it because they haven't enforced a copyright on it.
thing that can happen. A slough is a type of changeling.
Gilgamesh, this hand of mine is... Oh my god, so you might not see it, but right now, Gilgamesh is trying to bribe me explicitly into playing Limbus Company, and he's quoting G Gundam. He has my respect for that more than anything else. I actually respect a good G Gundam reference. It's been years, but it's still really good. Get a heart for that one.
They feed on glamour, raw creativity, basically. But here's why I'm not going too in-depth with them. And it has to do with Elise being a changeling.
2 on the
I
nose?
find this to be a dubious prospect at best, for a couple of reasons. One being that if she is a slough, then the Arcanum chapter house has the most hilariously inept security protections in place I've ever seen. There's a ghoul, there's a werewolf, and now there's a changeling. All we need now is a wraith, a mummy, and someone possessed by a demon.
Funny you should mention mummy, because I've heard a truly lot of people talking about how D might be a mummy. Sure, why not? Oh, and according to Necro, Slenderman was created in response to a photo editing contest. Oh, so it's Photoshop so public domain? I don't actually remember.
And we've got the whole bloody World of Darkness lineup here. And we might even have one of them in there as well.
Foreshadowing.
Slough specifically can never talk in anything louder than a quiet whisper.
Really?
Animal-type vampire!
Now, that's a mighty loud, quiet whisper, innit? Also, on that note,
Considering she wasn't shouting at the top of her voice, maybe that does count as quiet for what that would kind of justify. Also, her eye has that little extra ring around it, but it's not the entire delirium circle.
so I'm not totally sure what Elise is doing, truth be told. I think that there's intentionally something being held back from us. The order of events, what precisely happened during those more ambiguous moments, the exact order of the events. Something that once we have it all in place, it's just going to click, and we'll be able to put this whole thing together. For all we know, Grimmel did the ghoul thing, crawl back into the security room, Matilda came in, Grimmel left, and then Elise gave Grimmel a hairband to cover up her burn. Or maybe Ghoul dominated Elise after the fact. Grimmel did seem to want to defend Elise a lot, and while
She is incredibly pale. Are there any vampires who are really good about making their looks in such a way that they just, look human? But also, I don't know. I don't know nearly enough about them.
while there could just out of be genuine concern from her friend, the part of me that thinks that she's the ghoul suspects that Grimmel dominated Elise more out of necessity than malice, and didn't think that she'd be caught up like this and never intended for that to happen. So she's trying to protect her friend after putting her in an incredibly compromising position accidentally.
Oh. So she might be a... Wait, am I mishearing that?
And didn't think that the ghoul suspects that Grimmel dominated Elise more out of necessity than malice, and didn't think that she'd be caught suspect could just out of be genuine concern from her friend. The part of me that thinks that she's the ghoul suspects that Grimmel dominated Elise more out of necessity than malice, and didn't...
Oh, so she thinks Grimmel dominated Elise. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. Huh. I haven't thought about it that way. Because you could get powers as a ghoul based on the person you're working for. And since it would be a fake vampire wizard, I'm never going to be able to say their name right, that might actually count. Also, Gilgamesh, you mentioned, so Airier, you wouldn't have happened to have in recent times about a buff elf written by an admiral on his seat in a forum about battles in space, would you? Also, Limbus, go play it. I know exactly what you're referring to, but the fact that you put in instead of IN, I don't know why, but it irrationally bugs me. And yes, I might have made a comment about something about a golden tree elf who enjoys talking blunt and getting swole. I might have made a few comments about that. Completely unrelated, though.
Matilda lied about running into Grimmel in the security room, just outright, and she was just trying to sow dissent. It's also equally possible that whoever the ghoul's dominator is using their discipline to a distance, which is something that they can do. Subliminal messaging, or even in real time screwing around with them. Now, they mentioned Obfuscate in that one audio log about the vampiric disciplines. Maybe the vampire is in the building, just watching them. My head hurts.
There's also the other option. Elise might be a ghoul. Or maybe not a ghoul, maybe she just is a vampire? If she has control of her body, like maybe biology control, or what's the term for someone who has touch-based biology control? I don't know. Or self-based. Whatever it is, I'm sure there's nothing horrific in fiction about that. No faces that must scream but has no mouth. Nothing about that. Maybe she could make her eyes actually explicitly have an iris shape like that or not. I don't know. That would be a little too on the nose. I think distracting enough that they wouldn't do that. So that's a line of theory that I think is absolutely ridiculous. But I will say her being a vampire, not what I was initially going for, and I don't think it would work out just because I think they did blood test her. But it would be a different take.
Hurts. This is the downside to
Banes?
knowing as
about
much
Banes,
about
though.
World of Darkness as I do and doing theories like this. There's like 15 different possible options here. This fly could be the ghoul for all I know.
And admittedly, there is backup to that one, so it kind of makes sense. Considering they explicitly in one of the audio logs brought up the rats that were made into dogs as potential ghouls because animals are able to be ghouls, and that would perfectly fit in. That said, if they end up making the fly the ghoul, that is a narratively weak gesture that is not unjustified and has had backup. But unless they make that fly narratively relevant somehow, it is the ultimate cop-out answer to, it wasn't ever actually anyone altogether, and we're just running with it. It's a bad choice narratively, and I don't want to believe that they would drop the ball that thoroughly. That's not an in-universe thing. That's more of a, it will bug me. And I've heard other people talk about this because, again, animals can be ghouls. That was explicitly established within the internal lore within Hunter the Parenting. But it's dumb and narratively unsatisfying and would actually make me think less about the writers involved with Alpha Busa and the Hunter the Parenting crew in general because it's a cop-out. Yeah. Now, if the fly turns out to be a thrall to someone else there who's in the building, that is a different story. But that would not make the fly the ghoul, would make the fly a thrall of someone else. So different. Okay, Shadow of the Mascot, I'll give you that one. It will bug me. Yeah. I wish I had a bell right now to ring it because that pun actually got me.
Yes, that is entirely possible. Remember Kitten and Dee's new pet hounds? That's a thing that can
Yes!
This team makes you second guess everything. And if you look into World of Darkness deeply...
And again, he's bringing it up. It can be a thing, but it would be massively unsatisfying. Not that it couldn't be, that I just really hope that's not the twist they're using.
enough, you'll find archetypes of supernatural creatures with basically every human on the planet, especially when it comes to changelings. Like, one could make the argument that because he's a workout fitness guy that doesn't instantly jump towards violence, then...
Yeah, but also we have pictures of him showing he did get swole over time.
Harry is a troll, or perhaps even a particular type of mummy that focuses on people that didn't take care of their bodies. This goes so far that if you were to place some random Muslim character into the series, apropos of nothing, that alone would be a strong argument to make that they're an Eshu changeling, due to the correlation of many Eshu being of Middle Eastern and African origins.
I don't even know what that means.
Islam being a prominent religion in those areas. Basically, every personality type or group that you could imagine has some correlation to some supernatural phenomenon.
And considering these a lot of the characters or spiritual successors, different in their own right, but heavily inspired by If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device characterizations, making them all slightly supernatural in some way, shape, or form does make sense for the main cast. And even some of the side cast. It does make sense to some extent. But I'm not always sure how accurate it is, because again, it's a spiritual successor, not a one-to-one. Ooh, also, Bep, you got you joined the membership as well. Thank you very much. Sorry for not pronouncing the Cyrillic sections. I have no idea how to say Cyrillic anything. And Gilgamesh, you have individually forced me to play Limbus Company tomorrow. Gate of Babylon summoned more money for me. There, done. That was one entire big-ass burger menu from a good place. Gone to donations so I can make you play Limbus Company. That's lack of wisdom stats. Well, shit. And Bep, you upgraded Go to Moderate Evil. Thank you very much. But yeah, I guess we're playing Limbus Company tomorrow. That is a thing. I'll download it right after the stream. Or, no, wait, did I? No, it was my previous memory card I did. But seriously, Gilgamesh, thank you very much. But if it is too much, feel free to refund any of that. I know that's a lot of money. Do not feel like you need to, though. I appreciate it, but don't put yourself in a bad financial situation, please.
So I find that relying on those aspects as evidence for a character being supernatural to be...
I just realized it said high security at the bottom of the cages. I didn't realize they had that in there. Oh my god.
Dubious prospect. And also reeks of racial profiling just a bit. Look, I'll be blunt. For all we know, Elise could just be autistic. I've known autistic people that act like...
Actually, unironically, I hope she is some kind of hyper happy, super bright creature if she's a changeling, because no one would ever expect it. And also works on the premise of someone who's big and buff and huge being called tiny. This is the disconnect that makes it interesting.
Like that is fully a possibility. I'm not saying it's bad evidence. It's just that for me to be comfortable with making that sort of assertion, I need more than that to work with. Multiple things came...
Also, is anyone else a little weirded out that she's a goth explicitly in design, but she's doing the crosses in the correct orientation? I'm wondering if her big thing is she's explicitly a more religiously based hunter. Now, I mean, not religiously so much as in God, but so much as in sanctioned by maybe an organization. I don't know. I have no idea how that functions in the hunter or in the overall World of Darkness setting.
I mean, to play with Matilda and Grimmel.
But if she turns out to be the closest thing to Alexander Anderson I've seen in years, I'm okay with that.
That made me comfortable making the jump that they were a Garou and a ghoul, respectively. It wasn't just one thing. It was a bunch of different things. I could be shooting myself in the foot by not using this as absolute evidence, but not relying on those sort of assumptions served me well the first time, so I'm not fixing what isn't broke. I think what's being done here is that a bunch of different leads, which could go nowhere but also could go somewhere, are being laid intentionally to make the actual plotline harder to predict.
Yes, And I don't doubt that in the slightest. But I'm hoping if they take that as far as writing skill goes, I really hope if they're adding extra plot lines to differentiate so you can't predict it, those plot lines aren't dead ends. This is actually something that comes up in writing a lot, where you're trying to drop enough breadcrumbs people can figure out what you're doing, but then you just lead into plot holes because all the plot lines lead nowhere except for the one you want. I'm calling this the Star Wars going to the effing casino in the second to last new movie from the mainline series, where the entire thing was, hey, you're not going to guess what happens next. Hey, you're not going to guess what happens next. Hey, you're not going to guess what happens next. To the point where you don't guess what happens next. And by the time anything changes, you're like, oh, neat. I never guessed that. And having seen the twist once, I will never care again. Yeah. A significant proportion of the movies apparently were rewritten because people guessed what the initial ending was, because the movies accurately foreshadowed things, so they wanted to uncorrect the writing. And that's on top of all the other bullshit that happened with the writing setup, because apparently there was good and bad things that they decided to scrap all together because good and bad things happen, and some were expensive, some weren't. I prefer the last movie in the mainline trilogy over the middle one in parts. Specifically the parts where you could take out the entire casino segment. That's my problem with it from a sheer writing standpoint. It's only good once.
Like, okay, does anyone know about the SCP wiki? Basic premise is that there's a
I might be aware of this, good sir. Not the concept I was expecting to take from this one. Okay.
bunch of different anomalous objects and creatures all over the world that are contained and categorized by the SCP Foundation in that universe. Thousands of them. You also have SCP-001, and there are dozens of different entries for SCP-001. When Day Breaks, the Scarlet King, the Factory, the Spiral Path, etc., etc. Some are outright fake SCPs that don't exist. Some do. Some used to exist but are now defunct. But all of them are also real at the same time. And the reason that this is done in-universe and wiki-wise is to hide which is the actual SCP-001. They recognize that people...
Well, they also explicitly wrote in multiple 001s and zeros as well. So even if they're just hiding it, they also have explicitly multiple ones that could be real, but functionally are real because there's been multiple other universes based on it. SCP being an open forum, people have made their entire universes of storylines in here. It's actually fascinating. In fact, I sometimes prefer the mini storylines they tell more than the actual overall narratives.
Will want to know, but it's important that they don't for whatever reason. This could be for a number of reasons. A pattern screamer, the risk of corruption, the SCP Foundation's own hand in creating these things, whatever.
Admittedly, the one where they create themselves is literally the dumbest 01 entry. There's some really good ones, but the one where they create themselves is so unsatisfying. Which is weird, because the lore coming off it in later SCP entries is really good, specifically for that one. They decided to take the dumbest self-fulfilling prophecy for SCP, but then created one of the coolest, most compelling storylines out of it. And I'm just sitting here going, why did they choose the worst starting point for the best plot line? There's an entire name for it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's where they have this ancient civilizations and there's engagement with it. And there's actually people from it who are still around, who are not evil, who are not really contained, but they can ask questions of them. There's like the great and the powerful, but the horrible and the evil. And it's just so cool. And they started on the dumbest possible one, but they made it work. Unintentional too. And I'm not even sure it's the same writers, but they just decided to start with that one.
So they hide it in plain sight with a bunch of other...
Also, if anyone's wondering what I'm talking about, I mean the one where the guy was hired to assassinate the leader, but he became the leader because the assassination was the hiring process. I'm heavily simplifying it, but that was the entire thing. That's it. Yeah. They're just all subservient to a supercomputer because if they don't do it, someone else will do a worse job. That's it. That's it. That's literally it. The SCP Foundation 01 is the SCP Foundation. That's it. It's dumb. I hate it. But everything based on it was awesome because it established characters.
Fake decoys, fake articles entirely, and other genuine SCPs to make it impossible to tell exactly which thread to follow. Even if someone knows about the actual SCP-001, they can't tell that it's the actual SCP-001. Hidden in plain sight. And just in case anyone is curious as to my own opinion on SCP-001, I'll give you a quote that the SCP fans will understand. You want to know the best way to hide SCP-001? It's simple. You don't classify it as SCP-001.
I mean, the best way to hide it would be to make it boring, but that also kind of is more of a meta answer.
Fun fact, modern militaries also do this. The hiding in plain sight thing. It's basically impossible to hide anything nowadays with the internet and satellites. Any movements or build-up are very likely to be spotted. So in modern conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war, Slava Ukraini, by the way, what they tend to do is the build-ups, but all over the place. And
actually, that's not even a modern military thing. That strategy was explicitly used in World War II with inflatable tanks on the British Isle side of the channel to make the Germans think that there is a massive army about to assemble there. It's not even just a tech thing. It's an actually useful long-term for the last 100 years thing. Oh God, it's been 100 years since the reference I just made almost. Huh. Yep.
in such a way as to make it impossible to tell what the real target is, to misdirect. The enemy knows an attack is coming, but they don't know where. So the element of surprise can still be maintained even when it's not really a surprise. That is what I think is happening here. I think that there's a bunch of threads which are being laid out, some of which are genuine, some of which aren't, some of which will be followed up on, and some of which won't, and it's all being done to obfuscate the actual thread of what's going on and making it.
And again, he's motioning back into his initial tangent and my initial tangents that it came off his tangent about how multiple threads hiding the one they need. Yes, also that reference I made earlier to the inflatable tanks was actually explicitly meant to cover the buildup of forces for D-Day, so it worked. Ooh, Lucas, thank you for joining the Go Team Modern Evil membership level, man. Thank you. But again, I'm coming back to the writing standpoint. Multiple threads are interesting when they lead somewhere, but if you have multiple threads, that is a very big risk because, one, possible plot holes. Two, if any of those threads are more interesting than the actual one that people need to pull on for the correct answer, that is massively disappointing. Now, it's a good way to hide it, but it's a terrible, horrible, I'm in the wrong focus mode on my the OBS mode to make your audience regret the outcome you have chosen, because if the thing you're not touching on is better than what you decided to do, you done fucked up, Aaron.
It's near impossible to establish a clear picture that isn't contradicted by anything else. This is different to Chapter 4, which was mostly giving us a lot of relatively concrete information to work with. Chapter 5 is leaving open a lot of possibilities. One of them is true, I'm sure, but they've done a fantastic job at hiding which one it is.
I suppose I should also address this theory. It is possible that whoever the mole is isn't aware that they're doing any of this. It's possible that they've been dominated and given subtle objectives to carry out actions. That could be what's happening with Grimmel's Cognis Mentis innate thing, but I can't prove that right now.
And, you know, you could still go back to my initial theory. Even if Occam isn't a ghoul, he could be a willing collaborator because it suits his needs for some reason. In the previous episode, not the current one, episode 5, but 4, there is a chart in Occam's study showing a decreasing rate of casualties in the chapter house. It could also be a decreasing rate of people in the chapter house too. But it looked, at least at a brief glance, that less people died over the course of him being in charge. Or maybe the previous person being in charge. Things are getting less dangerous, or maybe less dead. I'm still going with that being an option, if he's not the ghoul.
No one can. There's no real evidence for it, which is why I'm not focusing on it. Chapter 4 was the mystery chapter. Chapter 5 was the main payoff to that mystery. From here on out, the story could just throw a total curveball twist at all of us that none of us could have seen coming, and that the rest of the stuff is just red herrings. Very good and well written red herrings that still characterize everyone and give us information about them and world build in such a way as to not make them waste of time, but still, nonetheless, red herrings to the actual point at hand. That's entirely a possibility, and it would be fair enough. We got our murder mystery solved, so now they can throw in whatever twists to demonstrate the power of the region. What I've done here is more looking at what information there is and try to make theories out of that. But if it turns out that the mole is dominated and isn't aware of it, then there's not really a way for anyone to tell if that's what the case is. My point being that I'm focusing on what we can focus on, and limiting speculation. That's why I'm not going into theories like, is the fly the ghoul? Because yeah, that's possible, but how the hell can I make an argument in favor or against it?
Actually, that'd be very easy. You already did. It would be because they established previously in the media explicitly within the internal universe of Hunter the Parenting that animal familiars were an option. The biggest reason against it, though, is what I already stated. It's dumb. It's unsatisfying and is a narrative mistake to take such a unsatisfying option that will guarantee audience disappointment. Unless they did a lot of work with that fly to draw attention to it and put it in unique situations that stood out multiple times before revealing it, it still would feel unsatisfying, but at least justified then. Yeah. Looking at it from what could be real versus what your audience will let you get away with is a very different concept. One is in universe, one is outside of universe. So it's literally the concept between the Watsonian logic and I forgot what the other one was. Basically, it's looking at like Watson, where you're looking at the in-universe, in fiction, and then you're looking at the outside of that as well, which is the more Doyleist, that's the word, where you're looking at it from the outside perspective with meta-knowledge. It's, yeah, you can get away with a lot. Oh, and Hakiryu just mentioned Doyleist. Yeah, thank you for that, man. Usually I don't remember in time for people to actually, well, say it before I forget all about it as well. Thank you, though. But yeah, it's, Cosmic is coming at this very much from the Watsonian in-universe, what could be possible. And while I love to do that too, I also will look more on the Doyleist side of, if they actually did that twist, that means they're bad at writing. I don't want to believe they're bad at writing.
And that's also the reason why I'm not focusing on the idea that the ghoul was dominated. Occam's solar sorcery is really the only evidence we've got that could be used to argue in favor of mind control. But it could just as easily have also been a fully conscious person doing it. That's not enough to go on with anything, so I'm just not really doing anything with it. I'm focusing on what we can focus on, not what hypothetical vibes there are. I've also seen it suggested that Grimmel planted the hunter data on Matilda. This makes little sense to me because, I don't know, personally, if I was in a game of Find the Horrible Monster, and I was a horrible monster, but I didn't want anyone to know I was a horrible monster, and someone planted the evidence on me that would convince everyone else that I am a horrible monster, but I didn't even steal the thing that would convince everyone that I was a horrible monster.
That's a lot of beer bottles, I just realized. I am kind of questioning, though, why does she need the hunter data? Like, why would werewolves do it? Because I'm learning a bunch about werewolves from the Burger Creek breakdown video, and a lot of it comes to me at looking at, like, they're not usually put together enough to form that kind of coherent action or to respect people enough to care about which ones they're about to indiscriminately murder if that's what they're after. And since all of these people are alive, the indiscriminate murder was not the point. So whatever they're doing, it's not to kill more hunters, because if that was the goal, they're still alive. And she easily could have. So why the hunter data? And maybe that wasn't it. And maybe she was looking for something else. I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. People in the chat are mentioning Black Shook. Maybe they're looking for information on that and they think the hunters have it. But even that would be a very specific brand of werewolf that I don't know if she would be the one going for it or not. I just, there's not enough information here. They did name drop Black Shook. That was in one of the other options I forgot about. I just didn't know enough about it to recognize at the time. Nicholas Jen, you mentioned Grimmel might not be a ghoul because she was burned from Occam, but ghouls don't burn in sunlight. Oh, interesting. In that case, she'd be the vampire, but that probably wouldn't be the case because that would be way more obvious, and she wouldn't be nearly as fucked up.
In the first place, I would at least try to deny it.
And yeah, they didn't target Marcus specifically. Nope, she was originally reaching for Brock. Marcus got in the way.
But that too creates inconsistencies, which is going to lead us into Theory 3. Okay, so taking Theory 1 and 2 into account, I want to try and put together all of this and answer one question in particular. What is the ghoul actually after?
I mean, I was always assuming the ghoul, based on what we've seen of the Regent, would be after a convenient, disposable, and deniable source of, hey, check out this enemy of mine who's randomly at this location. It'd be a real shame if anything happened to them. And if you die, I don't care.
I think theorizing on this might help us answer who the ghoul is. But here's the thing. I'm not entirely convinced that the ghoul is even trying to take anything.
Yeah.
I've gone back and looked, and we never, at any point, specifically heard Kevin or Dee say that Kevin said that the ghoul was after the hunter data.
Yep.
Kevin mentioned the hunter data to Dee, and that there were many orgs like the Arcanum, where ghouls had managed to infiltrate their ranks, but that's it. And I'm starting to wonder if the idea that the ghoul was after the hunter data isn't just some massive assumption on Dee's part.
Entirely possible. And Dee does make a lot of assumptions, and when he's wrong, things go bad. For example, the assumption there would be a ghoul and not a werewolf. Not a bad assumption, but in this case, very wrong. Because there was a werewolf, and that is not good. Stuff going on that I just don't know nearly enough about.
Stick with me on this for a moment. Kevin learned about the infiltrators when he was in the Camarilla. He learned the hunter data was completed when he was with the Sabbat. The Regent, whom's ghoul they're hunting, is in the Camarilla. Now I can see the Sabbat wanting to wipe out the hunters without any regard, no questions, but the Camarilla? I don't think so, at least not that openly. I've seen some speculate that Grimmel was mind-controlled by Matilda, and that's why she didn't remember meeting her in the...
And she does have the lighter for a burn to happen. But what would happen that she would get a burn that she doesn't remember it, though?
security room, and why she lit Matilda's cigarette?
Actually, I'm wondering right now, when did she get that... When did she get the covering on the burn? Was she wearing that earlier as well?
Issue is, I've looked, and I cannot find any werewolf abilities that involve mind control. In fact, most of them involve resisting mind control, so I don't think it's that. Matilda was the one after the hunter data, not the ghoul. And assuming that the werewolves and vampires are working together for a moment, why send both a werewolf and a ghoul to infiltrate in the exact same way?
Purposes.
It seems rather arbitrary. Spy on one another and make sure they don't backstab and run off, yeah, for all the good that did. Can't speculate on motivation. I feel like I'm saying that a lot this video.
Also, I just realized they have a staff pick for urinal. I didn't even notice that the first time around. It's so stupid, and I definitely want to do that now.
But let's stack the odds against ourselves for a moment. Let's assume that Kevin was wrong, or at least he was fed bad information by the Camarilla and the Sabbat, and the ghoul he warned Dee about was actually a werewolf the entire time. I still think there's a ghoul in there. My logic mostly being Occam's attack. Matilda would have ripped him in half. Why wouldn't she? He still...
The reasoning for why she wouldn't is because she went out of her way not to kill everyone. I mean, she went as out of the way as a werewolf in the oh god what the fuck form would do, but it still counts. Also, Nicholas Jenny, you mentioned, was Spit going through the delirium? I think it's assumed because he had the instinct of oh god, oh god, oh god. But he was getting help beforehand, so maybe there's more going on that I don't know about. And there's also a third option, which I personally want to say flat out I don't believe. This could be a third red herring. Matilda was only there to steal the data. She didn't kill Fatigue. I don't know. I really don't know. And Shaq mentioned the ghoul could have been Fatigue. Entirely possible, and that would also be why you can't find him anymore, because he's dead. I personally don't believe the idea that she didn't kill him, but I just don't know enough.
The biggest threat to her presence there. We have to assume that vampires are still involved in the situation to some degree.
Actually, now that I think about it, I might even go further into her not being the one to kill, because she mentioned getting fed up with not killing things and not fighting right off the bat and should have just gone with a different method. And if she was already moving to murder and she was doing the entire cloak and dagger thing to steal it, but explicitly breaking it, am I convincing myself she actually isn't the murderer and is just taking the rap for it? Which also means that... If she's not the murderer and is a very believable patsy for it, then maybe the ghoul did kill Fatigue. And we don't know who the ghoul is because she was working at cross purposes to get the data and being sneaky about it, and she didn't break her cover to kill Fatigue. And Shek, you mentioned Split had delirium eyes. Yeah. Which is why it could still be her. But would something else possibly have done it? Probably her, but it just... The only reason I wouldn't think it's her is just because... And again, I don't personally recommend this theory. It's just one to throw out there. I still think she's probably the one who did it because he was explicitly known to hunt and probably did kill a lot of werewolves. I think it was mostly revenge. Is a second werewolf. I've heard that the first transformation is maybe traumatic. Maybe it's something to do with Spit himself. I don't know. At the start, she killed him since that's what caused Spit's delirium. Yeah, Martin, I saw that. I don't know. I don't think Spit is... If he's responsible, he's unaware of it. If something's going on, he's unaware of it. And it's entirely possible maybe the mind control aspect hit a werewolf. Maybe she wasn't aware she did this. And that's why she looks so angry in this shot, because she knows her handiwork and she's upset. But not sad like everyone else is, or scared. This looks angry to me. Maybe there's more going on. And considering Kevin had domination right away, even though werewolves are immune to it, maybe the ghoul or flat-out vampire dominated a werewolf, which in its own right is a terrifying prospect and probably well beyond the power level they were at. It's just what I would say, except they also dropped a werewolf on everyone. So I don't know. I literally do not know. It's probably what we think right now. It's probably her getting revenge. It's probably this. That is my best one, but I don't know. I just don't know enough.
And it seems likely that Grimmel, at the very least, is the one who attacked him, whether that be of her own volition or through being dominated. She got exceedingly defensive.
Also, I've heard some people mention stigmata, but I don't understand that reference too much, so I can't say shit. How's camera heat, Hobbit? Oh, yeah, it's close to 5 hour mark. I did turn it off for like 4 minutes. So that should give me some time over, but I'll probably have to stop soon because of that.
About the burn on her wrist, and frankly, a lighter screwing up so badly it engulfs the entirety of your wrist, particularly the underside of it, seems unlikely. She would have to literally have her arm outreached forward, tuck it inwards, and then the light would have to shoot fireballs backwards to do that. The only reasonable guess that we have at this time is that it was Occam's solar sorcery. Now, to be clear, I haven't actually been able to find anything about solar sorcery. As far as I can tell, it's not a thing in World of Darkness explicitly.
Oh.
Like, there's 100% rituals that would do stuff like this in World of Darkness. There are demon-infested cheeseburgers, moon-hopping magic wars, random telekinetics, multiple hollow earths, the Umbra, just in general, and believe you me, we're getting into that one today. And
Yeah.
a parody of World of Darkness inside World of Darkness, called World of Shadows, which had a particularly popular game that parodied Demon the Fallen, Fiend the Pacting, and the reason that it got so popular, or at least in part did, was morbid curiosity sparked by the contents after the developer was arrested for, and I swear this is a direct quote, unlawful sexual congress with an underage goat.
Nope. I know my limit. I am at my limit. This is all the... I don't even... So is this in-universe or out-of-universe? Because if it was in-universe, then it was part of the actual lore in game, which admittedly, from what I've heard, is still not close to the losing time because Blimp Army taking over world, and that was a thing. But then if it's out-of-universe, then this happened, and frankly, sure, why not? It's in-universe cosmic. That doesn't make it any better. It's just weird. Yeah. So, with a goat. And people are just saying, that's Pentex for you. Sure. There's also human the protagonist. I mean, isn't that basically what Vampire the Masquerade is trying to become? The joke, of course, I get, but it's one of the options. Thank you, Cosmic, for pointing out things I never knew. And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to find copious amounts of alcohol to make sure I never have to think about it again. Joking aside, though, I saw the time, and I'm about at the age where I need to run. I just saw underage goat, and I just said age instead. Oh, God. Pentex are allies of the technocracy, by the way. I'm sure they're allies, but both of them are doing allies for exact same reason that it's why upper management, but not management itself, and technocracy are so good about letting people who are gung-ho and happy get into positions of power. The technocracy is literally not actually horrible, run by people who aren't good at listening to people who disagree with their version of reality explicitly because their version of reality is whatever they want it to be, because they're essentially mages and don't realize they're mages. Explicitly. I say explicit a lot because it's very important to understand how their worldview is explicitly not the world. Explicitly, even. I know that's more than 3 times, but the jokes just work for me. Oh, God. All the same. For everyone watching, I'm going to call this one here. And I'm going to quickly download Limbus Company because we have reached the goal on that. So if you don't mind, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. CosmicVoid did a great job, and I can't wait to getting back to this, but there's a lot right there, including in-universe jokes about their own game, and now I'm just wondering, were they making fun of their boss when they wrote it? Yeah. Actually, that's entirely a thing that they might have just snuck in there because they're making fun of their boss. And considering some of the things that have been mentioned in Discord about some of the leadership at Paradox and how they actually had very well thought out plans for how to update into 5th edition to get rid of some of the stereotypes for their various werewolf-based ideology or clans so that they weren't just ripoffs of various stereotypes as opposed to, you know, just saying, they're dead, so we don't have to deal with it anymore. I can see someone sneaking something in there that's maybe a dig at someone. So, yeah. What I'm basically saying is I'm actually really glad with how this went. I'm loving it, and some of the internal weirdness is just funny to me. If you guys haven't already, there's a link below. Again, CosmicVoid did a great job. Hit it up. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.